My name is Nicky. I was born in Puerto Rico under the shadow of witchcraft.
My name is Bobby Cruz. I'm not actually related to Nicky, but I am his friend. I know things about Nicky that most people do not know. For example, I know where he comes from, I know his hate, and I know his fear. But most of all, I know how his life was changed. I think it all started when he was a little boy, and his father would tell him, "Run, baby, run."
The good is happening now. The bad it was when I was born, and the evil when the power of darkness overshadowed my family.
Nicky solamente había heredado maldición y maldición tenía. Nicky estaba posesionado al demonio. Claro que la familia también lo estaba.
For a child born into the Cruz family, Puerto Rico was a land of witchcraft. Nicky Cruz's father was one of the leading curanderos, healers of witchcraft on the island. From his earliest childhood, Nicky saw things, unbelievable things.
I was born in one of 18 children, and I was born in the mix of witchcraft and in the heart of my mother and my father that were deeply involved in witchcraft. And my father being a dominant type of person and powerful, they used to call it the Great One. And watch all this phenomenon, all this manifestation as a child, psychologically and emotionally tore me up apart.
Nicky's father was a hard man. He wrestled with spirits for a living, and to be tender to his sons was kind of difficult for him. Actually, he could be brutal.
Well, he represents the authority, the hammer. That you were scared because he was in total connected with something there, and the fear that people have for my father. And my father, I think, and I do believe that he drives into fear and intimidation, and he shows his muscle, his fix about the power that he possessed.
The family raised birds, and Nicky's father would discipline him by locking him in the pigeon coop.
My father was too rough, thinking that was the best way of disciplining the child. I was telling him, why are you doing this to me? I'm your son, and you're not going to hurt me like this. You're supposed to protect me. And then grab me like this, like a bag of potatoes, and throw me there with the pigeons. And now those pigeons, because the anguish and because the moments that I was so frightened, and I began to really scream. They got so scared, and they began to really fly and cut me with the nails, and they're flying and hit me with the thing because they were as scared as I was.
The scare birds would claw and tear at him, biting with their beaks in the darkness. It was horrifying.
And I fall asleep into the night, crying and feel so devastated that my hero has completely broke my back, my will, my emotions, my heart.
Being exposed to witchcraft, brutal discipline, the complete lack of love drove Nicky farther inside himself. He was always in some kind of trouble in school.
The teacher wasn't there, and he talked to the principal, and he took about 1 hour and a half or 2 hours, and I went in there so desperate. And then my father came out. He violently, viciously grabbed me by my little arms and rushed me to the town all the way here. And right there, he said, I'm going to teach you that you're not supposed to lie to your father. And I said, no, Dad, I'm telling you the truth. That is the truth. And my father didn't believe me, and that hurt me.
Even today, when he visits his hometown of Las Piedras, I know it's a very moving experience for Nicky. The memories are something that will never leave him. Jesus Christ has given him a love for the people that he never experienced as a child.
This is my childhood. This is what I was born. This is the place that has some memories. Nothing changed. It looked the same. Just to tell you one thing, really, when everything looked like this, so innocent, I used to come and used to just walk around. This is the place where fathers, mothers, children used to hold hands and walk around and talk, communicate, feel, and there was a aroma, there was a fragrance of beauty that you can never forget these things. You can never really honestly forget these things. But what really bring a lot of sadness and memory, it was when everybody was sleeping, when this town was sleeping, that's when we began to do our bad things. And that's when we in the quietness of the night, you can hear the sounds of violence.
One of the most powerful memories for Nicky was a time when he saved his brother from drowning.
This, to me, was the age of innocence. In some ways, sometimes I used to really feel that I could do everything. But this time, when everybody, including my family, thought that I was very hard, this hit home. I was watching my own flesh and blood brother drowning. And it was one of the biggest nightmares that traumatic really changed the course of my life. It was in this river when I saw my brother drowning. And it was in this place that I had to deal with life and death. And it was my brother. We were playing, we were pushing one another, and then falling, and sometimes I get a little upset because my bigger brother was tougher than me and pushed me, and then I hit him back, and I let my brother felt my presence, and he saw me many times when somebody used to come and bother my brothers, either my big brother. I used to go and I was the person who used to defend my brothers, and everything looked so nice. The water was still, quiet, and we was doing everything. Then just like that, it was a shock. It was a mental shock when I watched my brother going down, and then he tried with his little hands to really be above the water, and then went down, and then the third one, then I just went and said, my brother's dying. My brother is in trouble. So he's already have given up. My brother gave up with life, with everything, and I gave up with my brother because my other brother, Felix, he just was so exhausted, so tired that he gave up. And the only one that he was there right in the heart of that water was my brother. And I was there so desperate, and I was crying. And you cannot see the tears mixed with the water, but I was choked up with so much pain because in my mind already my brother was gone. And I went and I dipped all the way in, either for life or for death. And I'm going to die with my brother. That was the bottom line. And I went some way, somehow, and I grabbed him by his feet, and I just pushed him. And my brother that was there, just so tired, just when my brother was close, grabbing by 3 fingers and pull him all the way. It was the most beautiful joy, but I never have what you call party time in laughing and crying because I was so happy that my brother was still alive.
Against all odds, he saved his brother's life. Maybe it was that childhood feeling of being invincible. You know, Nicky could do anything. That gave him a new arrogance and feeling of power. It was the kind of power that would one day create one of the most feared gang members in New York City.
The only thing that I can say is that I was invincible, that I can handle anything. And you know what? My life always has been like that, very painful. I always believed that a lot of people thought that I wasn't sensitive enough, that my psychologist told me, you are doomed, you're finished, you're a sociopath, you don't have no feeling. I wish he was there with me in that river when I was torn apart to save my precious brother. And I love him. I love my family. We're very close. But he always remembers. And I want to bother him. I say, hey, you mine. I saved your life. Don't forget that.
Eventually, everybody knew Nicky had to leave. It was common during those days for young men to leave Puerto Rico and travel to the United States to seek their fortune. And his father decided the sooner the better. When it was time for Nicky to leave the island, most people were happy to see him go.
What really took place is, honestly, I began to be bad. I started doing things that it was wrong. I started to hang around with the wrong crowd. I was the priceless fighter here in the town that used to come and meet with the other people of the other town. I used to sneak out through the window and then put you to sleep. And there, you jump from the window, and then there is in the quiet of the night, when everybody was sleeping, when everything was quiet, that was when I had my best time because I can hear the noise of people screaming, fighting, hitting, and laughing, and all of that. And then I began to get into trouble, and my father came to the conclusion that the best thing for me was to go to New York and go with my brother Frank.
Before he left, his father told him a story that would haunt him for years. It was about a bird with no legs, a little bird that forever had to fly higher and higher, because if it ever landed, he would die. Nicky knew he couldn't fly, but he could run. Nicky started running, and he was never gonna stop.
Well, that was the first time that I saw something good in him. And I couldn't believe when he grabbed me and put me in his lap. It was in a rocking chair, and he put his 2 strong arms around my chest and hugged me to his chest. He smiled and he whispered so beautifully in my ear the story of a little bird that had no legs. And then I got caught up in the wave of the emotions, and I began to ask him questions. And he said that this little bird didn't have no legs, and he used to fly, and then he had to be there surviving because the ox, all the big birds that was after him to eat him or destroy him. And I said, but Father, how that little bird eat and feed himself? And he was very smart, and he said, every time the insects used to come and arrive from below, and the birds used to go and get into the currents of the wind, and then he used to come and feed himself. And then he said, and asking the other question, and I told him, Father, what happened when that little bird come down? And he told me, well, he would drop dead. Nick would drop dead. And then I didn't understand too well what he trying to tell me, but I understood about death because my brother. And then he let me go. And then I went into the space coming down here, and I started flying like a little bird. And he was watching me laughing the way I used to make my moves like a bird. And there is what he said, there is my son. He is a bird.
His father put him on an airplane at the old San Juan Airport, and he went to New York City in the dead of winter without even a coat.
When I arrived in New York and I saw New York from the sky, what a magnificent view! It was clear. It was white. I never saw snow, so I saw something white below, and I saw the seams of the buildings as the airplane went around for the landing, and I got scared. I really thought that for the first time in my spirit, I began to find out there's another civilization, another people living in another planet. That the buildings were so magnificent, and there was the Empire State Building, and I never knew really honestly what was the Empire State Building and the Statue of Liberty and things like that. But I say this, that it was intimidated. I was intimidated by the awesomeness of the city.
When the plane landed, guess what? Nicky started running.
When the airplane landed violently, because I never flew, I thought I was going to crash, and just the pilot was making the landing, and when it hit the ground, then it was like I wake up. I was sleeping. I wake up, and I felt comfortable. I got control of my wheel. I took Nicky back, and then that's when I began to realize that I made it, and I'm free, and I'm gonna run, and I will not allow anybody to really hold me down or pull me down anymore. And the freedom that I experienced was outstanding, awesome. Back to earth, back to my own control, my life.
Instead of going to his brother's house, he disappeared into the heart of the city.
I remember just like this day that it was so cold, it was so bitter, and it was a culture shock. When I came out and I saw the white snow and thousands of legs moving, going nowhere. Nobody talked. Everybody was busy. So everybody was rushing to the final destination. And I remember it was one of the most lonely moments of my life, that I felt that I was in the twilight zones of another planet. The language was different, and yet I was so lonely and didn't know what to do, where to go.
But after 3 days of freezing temperatures, he finally contacted his brother.
It was about 3 days. I began to know that I could not handle it myself. The people were totally different, and I knew that I need to contact my brother, and they were scared. They were looking for me. They thought I was dead.
Cuando llegó a vivir en la casa, a los 2 o 3 días salió al parque y empezó a jugar al béisbol. Y quería batear 2 veces, porque era así, quería dominar, controlar. Y la primera reacción fue que tuvo una pelea y le ganaron, lo destrozaron. Y él dijo, esta es la primera y la última. Y desde entonces se desarrolló más la agresividad en él.
Yes, my brother tried to force me to go to school, and already got into some trouble. And I remember that the beginning, it was in the school, it was just in the street. And in that time, it was Puerto Rican against Puerto Rican. I don't have no excuses that it was the blacks or the Italian or the Irish, but this guy that beat me over, it was a Puerto Rican. And then the next day, I went into a pool hall. He was shooting pool, and then I took a stick and I broke his head right in front of everybody. And I went on top of the guy, and I set my feet straight. Then my brother took me to school, and there's another harassment in the school. This guy wanted money, say I have to belong to a gang. If I don't belong to the gang, that there's no guarantee that this is the only way to survive, that you have what you call, they call the word, you got to belong. And I didn't know what the guy tried to say, and then he wanted my money, and that's when I got into a fight.
School didn't work out. He had no friends. And of course, it wasn't long before he met the Mau Maus, a vicious gang that would change his life forever.
Getting into a gang is kind of a way of staying alive. If you don't join one, you have no freedom because you can't walk anywhere. You walk a block away, there's a gang there, they'll probably beat you up. If you walk west, they might beat you up. If you walk north, they'll beat you up. So it's better to join a gang. And plus, you have a lot of friends that way.
We got started because Little John the Box moved into the neighborhood. And the chaplain knew him, and he decided to make a Puerto Rican gang. And he asked them permission, and that's when we started.
And at the time, a movie had just come out called Mau Mau, and it was a hit. And I don't know if you know, the word Mau Mau means kill, kill. It was about an African tribe who all the Mau Maus, the real people that we depicted to be, we wanted to be like them. We wanted to be killers. So we took that name, and because it was already popular in people's minds, we became the Mau Mau. So every time people heard the name Mau Mau, they thought about the movie, and those people in there, they say, man, those guys must be just like them.
There were 5 gangs: the Barracudas, the Stompers, Sand Street Angels, Mau Maus, and Chaplains. The Chaplains were black, the Sand Street Angels were white, the Barracudas were mixed.
They called gang fights rumbles. At his first rumble, Nicky got his hands on a gun. That made him drunk with power.
My first rumble that I have, son of a gun, Isior and Carlos, they started laughing because they thought there was a guy by the name of Tarzan. Tarzan was a jíbaro. He was a guy, a hillbilly. And yet, when I went to the first rumble, and I took I got my gun.
I think the worst encounter is always your first one. You see all of these guys running towards you, and you look like a pack of wild Indians. You don't know what to do. What do you do? Who do you grab? Who do you hit?
And I was so crazy with my gun because I used to see cowboy movies. And I thought that was the day of cowboy. And I took that gun and I started just, pressing the trigger and the trigger. And then one of the guys told me, come on, shoot the guy right there. There's a guy. And I went and I aimed that gun and I hit the guy. And I saw him falling. And the fear is, man, I'm in control.
When they used to come down on us, we would be here. And then they built a prison right in front of where they would attack us. And if we went down to the Soviet lords, we would attack them in their center. And their prison was built right around the center.
The fights were, pretty crude. You got 2 groups of kids coming at each other with sticks and bats and bottles and throwing rocks. And of course, we didn't have all those fancy, weapons. We had a couple of homemade guns. We used to call them zip guns. We shot 22 bullets that didn't blow up in your face. So most of it was hand-to-hand combat.
Well, sometimes it was scary, especially the first time. After that, you got used to it, and you just didn't think about it.
It's just natural.
Remember, you don't need fight us. With 10 guys of us, we can handle the whole neighborhood. The girls, sex, the drugs, and then when you go to the rumble and to fight, he said, this is power.
The gang was more like a family. It was a lot better to be out in the streets than to be at home, listening to your parents arguing all the time and worrying about this and that. In the gang, we just had a good time. We sang and we drank, and nobody talked about their family life. We just, talked about gang stuff.
Under the leadership of Nicky, Carlos, and Israel, the Mau Mau's became the most feared gang in New York. They ran it like a business, but their business was terror. A film was made about the life of Nicky Cruz and the Mau Mau, called The Cross and the Switchblade. It touched a nerve in the audience. It's been shown almost continuously since then.
I believe that the Mammoths, that was destined to big destruction.
Because I got arrested when I was 17 for murder, and I was sentenced when I was 18. So by then I was already realizing that I had to change my life.
I guess evil overcomes you and you lose fear of certain, moral aspects that you have been taught in your life. And when that happens, you become the animal that people depict you to be.
One day, in the heart of their turf, the 4 green housing projects right next to PS 67, the gang spotted this skinny white guy standing in the street. He was preaching a message about someone named Jesus. Nicky and Israel decided to check him out.
Well, I was with Israel, and I was a little high. And I walked down, and the girls and the guys, we didn't know what was going on.
Well, that's one of those instances, where we were in a moment of boredom.
Well, it was Israel. Mira, ven para acá. This was the place that Dave was, right?
Yeah, right there.
And we see all these people going around this little, cul-de-sac there. And we say, what's going on there? Maybe somebody got killed. Maybe somebody jumped out the window. Something that was going to bring some excitement to us.
The preacher was a young man named David Wilkerson. He had been called by God into the inner city. But his presence there so enraged Nicky that he spit on him and threatened to cut him into pieces.
God loves you, Nicky. You come near me, I'll kill you. Yeah, you can do that. You can cut me up into 1,000 pieces and lay them in the street. And every piece will still love you.
And this guy was talking so loud about God. And I got very angry.
It was really something I was proving to myself. I didn't want to stay within the 4 walls of a comfortable church. And to me, I didn't want to talk about the Holy Ghost unless I could see it change the lives of the worst. And here was my opportunity.
I didn't know who he was, but I knew that he was a preacher from what he was saying.
Nicky was the one who mocked. Most of those guys were not mocking. He was mocking. I think that was a cover-up of the hurt that was inside. Usually, my granddad said you throw a stone at a bunch of dogs and the one gets hit yaps. And he got hit by the Holy Ghost and was yapping.
But what bothered me is that I went after this guy because I hate this thing about God. And there was no God in my life because it brought me to my childhood because that was my parents used to support witchcraft, and spiritualism, and all of these things. The weird thing that I thought that it called supernatural to me identified with the spooky things, with evil, and I look at this guy, and when he said that God had the power to change your life, I didn't know what kind of God he was talking about.
I guess the Bible must have meant either, the black book of witchcraft or what was the Bible. I don't know if he knew which was which, but religion probably meant something, frightening to him because he had frightening experiences with it.
He was talking the God of my father that beat me up, the God of the father that was so bitter, so full of hate. If that was the God that he tried to portray.
And he was watching all of us looking at this preacher, and he must have just probably got, all kinds of anxieties going through his head.
And then when I went after the guy and I told him to shut up, I didn't believe in what he's saying. Israel got panicked. Israel thought that, man, what is he doing?
These guys carry switchblades. And if I had any fear, it would be that I would ever be checked. But I think the Lord had me make a statement that would conquer my own fear, and also I really felt that way. And two, that if I was to ever work with gangs, I had to conquer this now, and I think God used Nicky to help me conquer that, so that I could work with the other guys just like himself. That I would never be afraid of being cut up.
I got angry, and I make my move to disarm this guy, to see how he's going to handle it. And I went and I pushed him and I spit at him, and the guy got scared in the beginning. They didn't have no time either to hold me back. So what I did was I challenged him, and he said something to me that really, he said, look, you can go ahead and you can kill me and cut me in 1,000 pieces, and you can throw them right there on the street. But remember that every little piece is going to cry out that Jesus loves you and I love you. And that hit me hard.
I really meant that every piece is still loving.
That was when I saw the boldness, something different. It was different than anything that you see in the neighborhood, a killer or anything. But the way that this guy changed, he said, look, you can go ahead and you can kill me. That, to me, is a challenge. That is a challenge. I mean, you can go ahead and you can kill me and cut me in 1,000 pieces, and you can throw them right there on the street. But remember that every little piece is going to cry out that Jesus loves you and I love you. And then I froze. That's when I froze. It's like he did something to me that he took my God away. He disarmed me because I was now dealing with one of the greatest force of all forces, with the love of God. Because I do believe with all my heart that there's two kinds of love, the human love and the divine love. And when these two elements get together, there's something supernatural happening in a human being life. And the only way that I can really feel that there's a God, it was through the touch of a human being. It wasn't a stone or a brick, and that was, Wilkerson was the element, the human element. And there it is. I saw the love of God through this man, that he wasn't afraid to die for something that he believed.
But the message was getting through. Israel accepted Christ first. And a meeting at the St. Nicholas Arena a few weeks later would prove to be a turning point for Nicky as well.
It was an exciting night. The young people were invited from all the city and all the city churches. My dad gave me permission to take about, maybe 10 or 15 young people from our church. And they were going downtown, and they were excited, and we got to the old boxing arena, because that's what St. Nicholas was. It had this kind of hanging balcony around.
Well, I remember we went in buses, and I remember when David Wilkerson preached, and I remember a lot of teenagers changing and supposedly going through a spiritual change. It didn't happen to me. It happened to Israel. It happened to Nicky.
Well, we all walked in there, and as the story goes, they told us where to sit. There's a big rope, and we cut the rope down, and all of the few Christians that were there at the time, they were amazed when they saw those knives.
A number of gangs had come, and they really didn't know, if I recall, how many different gangs were invited. Many of them wouldn't have come, probably. But it's very volatile. atmosphere.
The only thing that kind of bothered me a little was that they never shut up. They talked and it was the rumble of, hey, you here, hey, huh, what are you doing, huh? And it was just, just to try to get themselves. But I was looking from upstairs and I thought to myself, this doesn't look like church.
And we sat down and out came this church girl to sing. And you could tell she was a church girl by the way she was dressed, long dress, big long hair, and no makeup and nothing. She just was singing some Christian songs.
Well, when I got up there, since I was young, and I don't think I was too bad looking, they began to whistle. They began to stand up on the benches, and then they kept saying, come on, baby, and they wanted to dance. And then I was through with it by the first verse and the chorus. And I was ready to run off the stage at that time, but I would look back, and behind the curtain, David Wilkerson would say, sing the other verse. So I'd go ahead and try the other verse, and then finally I figured, this is not going anywhere. I mean, this is ridiculous.
I guess some of the guys from the other gangs didn't want to hear it, so they, made fun of her, and she ran off the platform crying, and out came David Wilkerson.
When I began to speak, I remember, I still feel, even to this day, the power of that moment, because there was something that came, the Holy Spirit came over that place with such power and conviction that it was beyond me. And as if I just stepped out of the picture and the Holy Spirit moved in, and I was just a voice.
And he sent his only Son into this world to love us. Jesus was a package of pure love, sweet, straight love. You, me.
Nicky didn't really understand the message. He had so much hate in his heart. But Israel helped him by explaining it in words Nicky could understand.
And I said, well, he said that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and he was a great leader, that he came into the world to die for us, that he died as a convict. And that he had a gang, and he had, 9 guys in his gang. They were called apostles. And he said he was willing to die for. And he said one of them betrayed him, and he didn't rat on him. He just told his father, forgive him, Father, for what he did. And then I was trying to interpret what I didn't understand the Bible myself. I didn't know much about it. And he said, oh, he had never heard that before himself either. So it was kind of fascinating to see that I was fascinated, and he was fascinated because, the Spirit of the God was moving through us.
The only thing that I can describe this is like I was, because I have been hurt in rumbles and been in the hospital. It's like I went into an operation room, and there I see my body, and then I see this magnificent person walking toward me. Close my eyes as I lay flat on that operation table. Close my eyes, open up my chest, then to see that Jesus came in and took my heart out, and in that moment, not only that, but kissed my heart, my pain, my hate, spoke softly to my heart, and then he put my heart back, closed my chest, wake me up, and when I opened my eyes, I was born again. I was a new creation.
I could see that something had happened to him because he looked in his eyes and you could see a tear in his eyes. I had never seen this guy cry in my life before. And he just stood there and he was saying, oh, God forgive me, God forgive me. And we knew that it was real. It was a real experience.
I don't know how to say it. You see, you feel it. You all feel him. He's here in this room. And he wants to touch you.
The reign of the Mau Maus was almost over. Most of them had been threatened with either jail or the electric chair. They knew it was time for a change. That's how God began to work.
God intended that for Nicky all along. And I think everything he went through was probably a part of the training, that he would have a compassionate heart for those that he would deal with. Who else could feel the hurt and pain as Nicky could because of what he experienced?
After Nicky accepted Christ, David Wilkerson began to work with him and eventually sent him to Bible school in Los Angeles. There, he met a beautiful girl named Gloria Stefani.
I remember we had started school together, He was 19 and looked a little bit out of sorts. He didn't exactly seem to know where he was because most of the students were pastors' kids, missionary kids. So, you know, he kind of stood out.
She didn't know much about his past.
By that time, he had definitely been refined. The Lord had done such a beautiful work in his life. And our connection was, we both loved working with young people. And, of course, our love and with the Lord for each other. So I just thought how beautiful it would be to do this. What a privilege.
Nicky and Gloria eventually got married and came back to New York City to work at David Wilkerson's Teen Challenge Center for drug addicts, alcoholics, gang members, and others on the streets.
This was the most beautiful years of my life. I was married just 1 month with Gloria. We came over here for the beginning of something that would take place in my life forever. That was when I really had my calling for the ministry. And it was the most beautiful moments of my life right here in 416 Clinton Avenue. This is to me have the memories that this was nothing but a Holy Ghost hospital. There when you touch the hurting, the wounded, the people that nobody wants to touch. Here there was a display of grace. And this is not like a ghost, but this is to me tremendous memories when I used to live with my wife in the second floor. We moved from the other place. And then there was a little office when I have all the encounter with so many hundreds of drug addicts that was sick. They used to call them junkies. And through all of these things, to watch the hands of God like the most perfect artist to shape life.
Their first case was a young heroin addict named Sonny Arkansani.
That's where I first met Nicky. And Nicky came up to me, and Nicky began to challenge me. And Nicky said to me, God changed me, and if God changed me, and I was the leader of the Mau Mau gang, he says, God is able to change you. And then I began to tell him, man, I've been on drugs for so many years, and I've been in Rikers Island Penitentiary, I've been in the Tombs, I've been in the federal prison in Lexington, Kentucky, and I've been through all kinds of programs, and nothing has worked. And that's when he took me into this room, and he said, I'm going to stay here with you, and we're going to believe God for a miracle. I kind of went to sleep, because I still had drugs in my system. I went to sleep, and then in the morning when I woke up, I was expecting to be sick and everything, and that's when I began to feel something happening inside of me, and I never felt before. And that's when Nicky then had a smile on his face, and he said, do you feel it on the inside? I said, yeah, man, it's on the inside. And that's when Nicky said, praise the Lord, this is God doing the work within your life. And then he started praying for me.
It was the moments when God changed the ministry of Teen Challenge, when Sonny was converted right here, and he was upstairs in the third floor when God filled him with the Holy Spirit and healed him physically. I spent 3 days locked up, believing in God, and I told him, God going to touch your life, and your life will never going to be the same. And you know what? It happened.
Not long ago, God began speaking to Nicky again. This time, he began to call him back to his first love, kids on the street. Kids in grave danger for their lives, kids who in the 90s lived much like Nicky did 40 years ago, abused, dangerous, and alone. Gangs still control our inner cities, but today,
the guys don't have no hearts, they don't have no respect for life.
Drive-by murder, killer drugs, gangs have grown beyond the urban jungle to a neighborhood near you.
They have no regard for life at all, and they would turn on the other generation if they had a chance to use weapons.
The way that I see it is, if we don't do something with these children or these kids, they're going to kill us all.
But for Nicky Cruz, no one, nothing is beyond the reach of a special love, the love of Jesus Christ. When God called Nicky back to the street, He gave them a brand new concept to reach the generation many think is unreachable. Nicky calls it truce, T-R-U-C-E, to reach urban children everywhere.
You know, at first what we did was we just would pass out flyers promoting this main event with rap music and a drama. And then we said, okay, now we're going to ask them, come, you know, do you want us to pray for you? Bring your children, we'll pray for your children. And people responded. And then we said, okay, now we're going to go out and we're going to just tell them, do you want to accept Jesus? Come forward. And the people responded. And the most beautiful thing was the way the church people, you could tell that they were surprised, because it was some areas, in fact, where they don't even drive through. And they were afraid of. And in the beginning, it maybe was a little bit hard, but towards the end of our meetings, we would have control of the whole block. The whole block. And you could feel the anointing. And you knew that God was so pleased.
The centerpiece of the effort is a live stage play that tells Nicky's life story.
It was sponsored by Truth, but it was Run Baby Run. And it was the first time that we've ever put Nicky's autobiography, Run Baby Run, on stage.
It's a real life drama at its most powerful. Urban audiences who've left their weapons behind to stand in line do so for hours at a time. They've come to hear about the legendary Nicky Cruz.
The minute the program started, it started off with a big bang and a big boom. The funny thing is, when a room is filled with sinners, the first thing that came out of everybody's mouth was foul language and cursing, but with excitement. And that's how we knew that we were on the right track.
Prayer was a crucial part of the whole entire production. It was a must to get prepared prior, because of the fact that each one of us, I personally went through something and learned through the character I was playing. We were also going to be coming in contact with people who didn't know the Lord. There was a lot of oppression, a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, and prayer is just an essential preparation. You have to be spiritually alert and discerned, and you just can't expect to go up on stage and do it on your own.
Don't underestimate the blessing of working with a man who has reached millions of people for Christ.
Unlike anything they've ever seen before, the live stage production of Run Baby Run takes the inner city kids on a roller coaster ride of emotions. But when the real Nicky Cruz walks on stage, every eye is riveted. At every performance, hundreds run to the altar to ask the same Jesus who changed Nicky's life 40 years ago to perform the same miracle for them. And he does.
Some of you need Jesus right now. And you know why? It's going to take a lot of guts. It's going to take a lot of guts. Honestly, I know some of you, you got the good to say yes. You got the guts to say yes. I'm tired. I'm sick of this life.
Next thing I know, I heard Nicky saying, if you want to receive Jesus Christ, come. So something lifted me up out of the chair. Next thing I know, I was down at the stage platform, and he looked at me and he said, "You're ready to receive Jesus." I said, "Yeah."
I think Nicky's right on target right now, because there's probably going to be, it happens every 15, 20 years. It breaks out again, a whole new generation. Now we've got a whole new generation. And Nicky can reach them, and also he's going to find a bunch of other little Nicky Cruz who's going to take his place.
It's not how trained, it's not how well spoken, it's not how dapper. That's not it. It's a love for God that has an open heart to receive love and to give it. And this is the uniqueness about Nicky.
Sort of a silent evangelist. There was just so much more being done by him that you just didn't hear about. It goes so far beyond the Cross and the Switchblade and the movie and all of that. He's impacted a lot of lives.
There's a hopelessness, I think, in our world today. Someone like Nicky, with the experience that he's had in Christ, the change has taken place in his life, I believe can bring hope to those young people in a way that perhaps nobody else can. Not only to bring a sense of hope, but also to bring the gospel of Jesus Christ, which will change their hearts and lives if they will respond to that.
This is the first time I opened my life to all of you. I took you to Puerto Rico, to the nightmare of my childhood. And there you saw the humble beginning, how everything started, when love was crushed. And I ran away from that nightmare. And this is my second home, a place that I never forget. This was the place that I ran wild like a wild dog. I fought for everything to stay alive. And yet, this was the place that I found for the first time that amazing love of Jesus Christ. This is the generation that really concerned me. But you know something? This will be the generation that prophecy will come through, our young people. I am not giving up with the young people because then I will be a hopeless case. And Jesus took me from nowhere, from the hopeless case, into a place of hope. I do believe with all my heart that through prayer, we will see the glory of the Lord like we never have seen it in this generation. I am not giving up with this generation because the Spirit of the Lord will come in and wake up our teenagers, our children, and they will come out with so much power and then arise with the most beautiful moments of their time. And they will be the one who's going to save this nation. And I pray that this will be the moment that you can see that God is still doing miracles. And I thank God for Jesus Christ, my Lord, mi Salvador, Jesus Christ.